Hi again everyone, thanks for stopping down. Today we're going to do a little comparison video between two old workhorses. We've got our Lee Enfield and our M48A Yugoslavian Mauser. I do like both these rifles, and the two of these has been, heralded as some of the best in rifles from their time. I'm not going to do like a whole rehash of both these rifles specifically, just because I've already done videos on them, and we'll put the links in the description. You can take a look at their individual reviews if you'd like. Today I just want to compare them a little bit, give a little compare contrast between the two, because they are very different rifles. So let's start with the Enfield. Just making sure I'm not, bottoming out and throwing these rifles all over the floor. Lee Enfield, man, and this is my #1 Mark III from 1916. Still holds up extremely well. Buttery smooth bolt action, decent trigger, and detachable magazine. 3 options, which I really enjoy with this rifle. So between the two, let's start with the obvious. Who has the better bolt action? This has a slight asterisk behind it because when most people do this comparison, they have a German Mauser. Well, I'm glad you were so lucky to come up with one. I don't have one, so I'm just going to go with what I have. For the Enfield, the bolt action is very smooth. Got that spring-loaded type of deal there. Nice and fast. You can really rack through rounds with this bolt, especially for a 100-year-old rifle. Now, when we start talking about the Mauser, again, trying to make sure I don't roll my rifles onto the concrete, we've got a slightly different beast. So, from a sitting position, it's very easy to operate. From a shoulder position, it becomes a little bit more awkward. Now I know, again, not a German rifle. So if I had the choice between the two of these, I would give the bolt action to the Enfield. It's just a lot smoother and a lot more maneuverable than this particular rifle. Now, I know some people are going to say German over, the German Mausers over the Enfield. Well, maybe one day I'll get to that, but between the two of these, definitely the Enfield. The trigger on the Mauser is pretty good. It's pretty standard for, battle rifles of that era. And it has very little play in it. The Enfield has slightly, maybe just a little bit more weight in the pull. Maybe a little bit. And this one has a little bit more play in it. It is a little older. But I like the design, the curvature of that trigger. I just think it feels nice when I get my hand in it, or my finger on it, excuse me. But I would say that the Mauser has a slightly lighter trigger, just slightly. Again, that's saying something though, because this was built in the 50s, this was built in 1916. So if we're only dealing in slight differences, another thing, like I already stated, the Enfield has the detachable magazine. Now this holds 10 rounds. Now the British were not encouraged to quick change magazines like we do nowadays. Of course, quick change is a little bit hard on this anyway, but it was still 10 rounds in a detachable box magazine. Whereas the Mauser, don't roll on me, was a 5-round magazine that you fed through the top. And you have your stripper clip port here, but it was, it's internal. You can't take it out, is what it is. Now when I see 5 rounds as opposed to 10 rounds, I like the 10 rounds a lot better. That's a notch in the cap of the Enfield. And that usually has a lot of people staggered anyway. 2 very different rounds we have for the Enfield, the .303 British, and for the Mauser, the 8mm Mauser. If you line them up side by side, they're almost identical. Almost identical. Very pleasant to shoot either one, although I will say I do enjoy shooting the 8mm Mauser slightly more than the .303. I like them both. There's something about that 8mm Mauser that I really enjoy shooting. If I could get 10 rounds of 8mm, it would be Mauser. But I do like the .303 British. It's a nice popping round. You know, the only thing that we do have is, you know, I don't want to say it's a design flaw in the cartridge, but you see that big old rim down there? Unfortunately, that can cause something called rim lock. If you don't properly stack your rounds in that magazine, it can cause some feed issues, whereas the Mauser, you know, doesn't have that. Now this is modern cartridges, so I'm not well versed in some of the older cartridges, but I would assume that that all of them were designed pretty similar to this. But again, that rim there is a little off-putting when you're loading. You got to kind of be aware. Now I've never had a problem with rim lock. I'm just saying that some people have. Let's see. What else can we do? Let's talk about sights. So in the previous video, I did kind of try and show you the sight picture. It's very low profile here. You have the front triangle post in the front, front triangle post in the front. The front sight post is triangular. Notch in the wood, as well as an adjustable back sight here. It is extremely low profile. I will say that the front sight post gets lost when I'm trying to line it up with the rear. You know, I haven't shot this rifle a ton, but I think it's pretty darn accurate inherently, and I can shoot it pretty well. But the sight picture, it leaves a lot to be desired. And I'm just judging, I'm trying to judge this with the time, not current day. It is pretty low profile though. Now with the Mauser, or excuse me, the Enfield, kind of a similar sight picture, adjustable rear, and you know, oh well, I guess I didn't say this. The front sight post for the Mauser is enclosed. The Enfield is not. I will say that I can pick up the front sight post just slightly better on the Enfield. It is not, I wouldn't call it better. I would just say I can just slightly pick this up a little bit better than the Mauser. And, you know, the back sight post here, the actual notch is cut just a little wider. So, you know, for what it's worth, they're both old military sights, and they're both not very good. I can just pick up on the Mauser sights just a little bit more. Let's see, what else? I remember in my Mauser video, I brought up the length of stock. So when I put this up to my shoulder, it is very comfortable. I don't know why, I just think it's very comfortable. We have a pretty slim section here, so I can really get my hand around it, and I have smaller hands anyway, but I just think that the length of the stock is right on for what I would like. Now, during the Mauser video, don't fall, I had complained about the stock being a little bit too small. I felt like I was really bunched up really close. And of course this is a little bit fatter than on the Enfield. So let's see if we can get super duper scientific and test my muscles out here a little bit without completely trying to tear apart my rifles. Really, see if I can round them here. It's largely psychosomatic. They're about the same size. So I don't know 100% as to why this feels shorter than this. Maybe it just has something to do with the fatness of this section. I don't know. This just feels more comfortable to shoulder than the Mauser. And you could have a completely different experience. I'm just telling you mine. Overall, the Mauser is just slightly shorter than the Enfield. You know, talk about an inch, thereabouts, inch and a quarter. But just, it feels significantly smaller. I'm not sure why. To me, that feels like a short little carbine, and this feels like a long rifle. You know what I mean? So take that for what it's worth. Again, you know, both of these rifles are great. They both served their purpose extremely well. You know, the Mauser hasn't, you know, been the main battle rifle of tons of countries. The Enfield really, you know, played its role for the British for a very long time, and they both, you know, did a great job fulfilling the need that they were needed for. So, for what it's worth, I like both rifles, but I will say that if I had to pick one, it would be the Enfield. Just gonna say that, and again, this is concerning a M48A Yugoslavian Mauser. Now, maybe one day we'll do a German Mauser video, but for now, the Enfield's definitely got my vote among the two. But guys, I hope to hear your stories and your comments on this. Hopefully you have maybe some opinions, because I like to hear them. Sometimes the gun community can get a little nasty in regards to what I like and what you like. Glock versus 1911. But anyway, these are two great rifles. I wouldn't take anything away from either. But I appreciate you stopping by. Thanks for watching another video. Thanks for all the subscriptions, the likes, the comments. Just continue to bring those forward. I appreciate all of it. And you can hit up the Patreon page. That link's in the description if you'd like to donate to the channel. That all goes right back into what I'm doing or attempting to do. But as far as from me to you, just thanks for stopping by. And you have a great one. Bye-bye.